The Untouchable Empath. Why toxic people panic. When you finally protect your energy, there comes a defining moment when the architecture of your soul changes. You do not shout. You do not announce your departure or draft a long, desperate explanation. You stop pouring your life force into a bottomless void. The fatigue in your bones reaches a critical mass demanding sanctuary. For years, your nervous system operated as a relentless sponge. You absorbed the chaos, the unspoken demands, and the erratic moods of those who refused to carry their own weight. Your empathy functioned as a wide-open door welcoming the heavy emotional debris of others. You spent your days anticipating every crisis, adjusting your tone and your posture to keep the peace. Your heart rate spiked at the sound of their footsteps. Your stomach tied itself into knots whenever their text messages illuminated your screen. The toll on your body was severe, an endless cycle of adrenaline masking your exhaustion. Now the hinges swing shut. This shift occurs in the quiet shadows of your mind. Your amygdala ceases its frantic scan of the room for their approval. The chronic hypervigilance fades, making way for an unfamiliar stillness. You draw your scattered energy back into your own physical form. It is a necessary act of profound self-preservation. When you retract those invisible emotional threads, the atmospheric pressure in the space alters. The temperature drops. They feel the change before they possess the words to name it. Toxic individuals survive by anchoring their turbulent emotions to your steady pulse. They require your reactions to validate their existence. They need your anxiety to soothe their own inner emptiness. By stepping out of the transactional dance, you sever the connection. The supply runs dry. You no longer rush to fix their manufactured emergencies. You observe them now with a detached, quiet clarity. They stand on the other side of an invisible pane of glass. Your aura hardens into a smooth, impenetrable surface. The frantic, dysregulated energy they project bounces off this new barrier. You realize you never owed them your peace. You never needed to serve as their biological regulating system. Breathing becomes an effortless act. Oxygen fills your lungs without the heavy tax of their looming expectations. You sit in your chair, feeling the solid ground beneath your feet, and let their chaos belong to them. You belong to yourself again. This silent closure is the birth of the untouchable empath. It is not an act of malice or revenge. It is a return to sovereignty. To understand the panic of the toxic mind, we must examine the biology of your past connection. For a long time, you existed in a state of chemical servitude. This was not a relationship. This was a parasitic dance. Your body became a host for their dysregulation. Let us look at the mechanics of this bond. A toxic individual lacks the internal machinery to process their own emotional pain. They cannot soothe themselves when fear or anger strikes. Instead, they outsource their nervous system regulation to you. They throw their chaos into your atmosphere, waiting for you to handle the heavy lifting. When they escalate, you placate. When they rage, you soften. You absorb the jagged edges of their unresolved trauma. By doing so, you act as their external vagus nerve. You calm the storm, but the poison enters your own veins. This transaction demands a massive physiological toll. Your adrenal glands worked overtime to keep you alert, flooding your bloodstream with cortisol. This survival hormone prepares the human body to fight a predator or flee a burning building. You lived inside a burning building every single day. The heart hammered against your ribs. Muscles held a chronic aching tension. Sleep brought no actual rest, delivering only a shallow suspension of anxiety. The system remained flooded with stress chemistry, waiting for the next unpredictable crisis. They thrived on this dynamic. Your heightened state of alert provided them with a twisted sense of comfort. Visible anxiety assured them of their power. Frantic attempts to appease them served as undeniable proof that they mattered. They consumed your cortisol to fuel their fragile ego. Now imagine the shock when you stop providing this biological service. You close the valve. The stage is empty. The toxic individual reaches out in the dark, expecting to find the familiar pulse of your anxiety. Familiar buttons are pressed, the ones that historically guaranteed a reaction. They wait for your heart rate to spike, for your breathing to shallow, for your inevitable surrender. A rush of validation usually follows their attempts to destabilize your center. Instead, they grasp at nothing. The air turns cold and quiet. Cortisol levels within your bloodstream begin a slow, steady descent. Your body learns the emergency has finally passed. You no longer offer your biological resources to stabilize their fractured reality. You hoard your precious energy, keeping it locked securely inside your own core. Without your nervous system to ground them, their internal chaos amplifies. They stand alone with the deafening noise of their own dysregulation. The terrifying emptiness they spent years forcing you to carry now demands their full attention. The parasite realizes the host has vanished. Panic takes root in their chest, spreading through their veins like ice. The music stops. The dance is over. Deep within your physical form, a dormant sentinel awakens. It is the vagus nerve. This intricate biological pathway serves as the master commander of your parasympathetic nervous system. For seasons on end, the relentless demands of toxic attachments forced this system into submission. You remained locked in survival mode, bracing for sudden impacts. Now, as you firmly decline their invitations to chaos, this ancient nerve flares into action. It transmits a powerful, calming electrical pulse from the base of your brain down through your heart, your lungs, and your gut. The message echoing through your tissues is profound. You are safe. The siege is lifting. Notice the immediate transformation of your posture. Shoulders drop, shedding the heavy, invisible armor you carried to survive their unpredictable moods. The tight coil in your jaw loosens. You pull a slow, deliberate breath into the deepest chambers of your lungs. This intake of oxygen acts as an uncompromising declaration of independence. It informs your primitive brain that the surrounding environment holds no immediate threat. The frantic, erratic hammering in your chest settles into a deep, rhythmic resonance. You forge an impenetrable fortress, and the mortar holding the stones together is your own regulated biology. Visualize your profound empathy as a vast network of sensitive threads. Previously, these threads stretched across the room, seeking out their emotional state. You monitored their subtle shifts in tone. You absorbed their unspoken resentments. You mapped the dangerous terrain of their mind to prevent an explosion. Today, the extraction begins. You reel those vital threads back to your center. You detach your awareness from their manufactured crises, their endless complaints, and their sudden outbursts. The energy retracts, pulling inward, wrapping a warm, protective layer around your own spine. The fortress walls climb higher. The heavy iron gates lock. Outside the walls, their noise continues, but the sound is muffled. The barrage of urgent messages, the passive-aggressive silence, the calculated guilt trips, they all lose their gravitational force. You observe their frantic behavior from the high vantage point of your sanctuary. You witness the storm, yet you feel zero compulsion to step out into the rain. Your internal environment shifts from chronic alarm into a state of cellular restoration. Digestion resumes. Physical repair activates. Your body realizes it has permission to heal. This vagal awakening reshapes your entire reality. You claim absolute sovereignty over your physiological responses. No longer will an unhealed person dictate the rhythm of your heartbeat. You command the gates of your own perception. Let them hurl their ungrounded energy against the thick stone of your boundaries. Their chaos shatters upon impact, unable to breach the perimeter. Inside the fortress, the hearth fire burns steady and warm. The atmosphere is crystal clear. You rest in the quiet, undeniable strength of your own domain, knowing your energy belongs solely to you. Behavioral psychology offers a precise term for the storm you are witnessing. Science calls this phenomenon the extinction burst. Imagine a laboratory animal pressing a lever expecting a pellet of food to drop into the tray. When the reward stops falling, the creature does not simply walk away. The animal presses the lever faster, harder, and with frantic desperation before finally surrendering to the new reality. You are watching the exact same mechanical response play out in real time. The toxic individual pushes the familiar buttons that used to dispense your precious energy, but the machinery stands silent. The supply is permanently shut off. This realization triggers a severe primal alarm inside their brain. Their amygdala interprets your quiet detachment as a lethal threat to their emotional survival. Blinding panic overrides their logic. They launch an offensive, desperate campaign to breach your newly fortified walls and steal back the control they lost. First comes the escalation of volume and frequency. The messages multiply into a relentless barrage on your glowing screen. Missed calls stack up in the notification tray. Their demands mutate from casual requests into urgent manufactured emergencies. They will feign severe crises. They will claim sudden tragic victimhood. They need you to break your silence because even your anger provides the neurological hit they crave. Silence starves the parasite. Any reaction feeds the hollow void. Watch their tactics morph as the starvation sets in. The initial outbursts of rage often shatter, dissolving into calculated tears or dramatic sweeping apologies. They offer sudden promises of grand, miraculous transformation. They wear the mask of a wounded child, hoping your natural empathy will betray your hard-won boundaries. Do not mistake this theatrical performance for genuine remorse. It is an evolutionary survival tactic designed to extract a specific resource from your nervous system. Your unbothered stillness drives them to the edge of madness. Your lack of reaction forces them to confront the terrifying echo chamber of their own mind. Without your light to absorb their darkness, the shadows turn upon them. They strike out with sudden, shocking viciousness. The insults become targeted and personal. The accusations twist past realities into grotesque, unrecognizable shapes. They project their own toxic traits onto your character, hoping the sharp sting of injustice will force you to defend yourself. Defending yourself requires engagement, and engagement means they have breached the perimeter. Hold the line. Remain anchored in your stone fortress. Recognize this tempest for what it truly is. Their chaotic escalation stands not as a measure of your failure, but as undeniable proof of your success. The extinction burst signifies the chaotic death rattle of the old parasitic dynamic. A dying system always fights the hardest just before it collapses into ruin. The storm raging outside your boundaries is mechanical, predictable, and devoid of actual power. Let the winds howl. Let the rain lash against the stone. You observe the frenzy through the thick, soundproof glass of your own regulation. Your heart rate remains steady. The breath flows easily into your lungs, unbothered by the desperate spectacle unfolding before you. You understand that this chaotic display belongs to them. It remains a stark symptom of their unhealed wounds. You release the heavy burden of fixing their broken machinery. The extinction burst will reach a fever pitch, and inevitably it will burn itself out into ash. The frantic pressing of the lever will cease. They will gather their chaos and wander into the dark, seeking a softer target to feed their endless hunger. You remain standing, untouchable and whole. When the extinction burst fails to shatter your walls, the tactics evolve. The loud panic subsides. An insidious quiet replaces the storm. The toxic mind reaches for the oldest, most reliable tools in its arsenal. They begin plucking the phantom strings of guilt and shame, hoping to bypass your logical defenses and trigger a primitive emotional collapse. For years, they installed these invisible tripwires deep inside your psyche. They mapped your vulnerabilities with meticulous care. They learned the precise narratives that activate your innate desire to heal, to protect, and to sacrifice. Now they play those phantom strings with desperate precision. A heavy, exhausted sigh punctuates a harmless voicemail. A cryptic, sorrowful message arrives in the dead of night. They weave elaborate fictions casting you as the cruel abandoner, the heartless villain leaving them to perish in the cold. The sting of these accusations carries a venomous bite. Human biology wires us for connection. Guilt evolved as a social mechanism to keep the tribe together, ensuring mutual survival. Your natural empathy rebels against the thought of causing another person pain, forcing a familiar, sickening weight to settle into your gut. The ghost of your old conditioning whispers a dangerous lie. It suggests you have gone too far, demanding you offer them one final concession to ease their suffering. Pause the tape. Step back from the edge of the emotional precipice. Observe this weaponization of guilt through the cold, clear lens of behavioral reality. These displays do not represent the genuine sorrow of a shattered heart. They remain calculated mechanical maneuvers designed to force your retreat. The toxic individual understands a direct assault cannot pierce your hardened armor. Therefore, they attempt to make you dismantle the fortress from the inside out. They weaponize your fundamental goodness against you. Watch their projection unfold in real time. They drag their own unacknowledged flaws into the light and hurl them onto your character. The parasite who consumed your energy for years now brands you as selfish. The architect of endless chaos accuses you of instability. Recognize this twisted mirror. Their frantic accusations serve only as a map of their own internal rot. They hold zero reflection of your true identity. You must let the phantom guilt wash over you without absorbing its poison. Feel the string pull, but refuse to dance. This moment requires a masterclass in cognitive separation. You observe the guilt as a passing weather system, acknowledging the dark clouds without letting them dictate your climate. Speak truth to the lingering shadows of doubt. Protecting your vital life force is never a crime. Shielding your nervous system from chronic abuse does not make you cold or callous. It makes you a sovereign guardian of your own sacred sanctuary. The strings will vibrate with furious, desperate intensity. Remember, they hold no actual physical power over your reality. They function only if you grant them permission to move your limbs. Cut the invisible cords. Drop the heavy, unearned mantle of shame onto the floor. Step over the wreckage of their projected guilt and stand tall in the light of your self-respect. Let them drown in the false narratives they spin. Your story belongs to you, and the pages no longer feature their manufactured tragedies. Every time you hold the line, your brain physically transforms. You are not just adopting a new attitude. You are altering the biological landscape of your mind. Science defines this magnificent capability as neuroplasticity. The human brain functions as a vast interconnected forest of electrical pathways. For years, you dragged your heavy boots down the dark, familiar trails of hypervigilance. You paved those roads with chronic stress. Every frantic apology, every desperate rush to regulate their mood thickened the underbrush of trauma. The path of least resistance always led straight into the center of their chaos. Now you forge a different route. The initial steps into this uncharted territory feel clumsy. The primitive brain protests, urging you to retreat to the familiar highway of appeasement. It sends sharp warning signals trying to force you back into the parasitic dance. Stand your ground. Push past the heavy resistance. Every time you leave a manipulative message on read, you carve a fresh groove into your gray matter. Every time you decline the invitation to an argument, you lay the sturdy foundation of a new neurological reality. The old toxic highways begin to wither from sheer disuse. The weeds overtake the asphalt. The forest reclaims the ground. You teach your nervous system a foreign language. The dialect is peace. Notice the profound, subtle victories accumulating within the quiet corners of your routine. Months ago, a sudden shift in their facial expression would trigger a cascade of cellular panic. Today, that exact same grimace barely registers. The electrical impulses in your brain no longer race toward the alarm center. Instead, they travel down the newly constructed roads of calm, measured detachment. The toxic person shrinks in your perception. They transform from a towering, terrifying predator into a distant, insignificant shadow. Their perceived power shatters into dust. You reclaim the throne of your own consciousness. This internal rewiring demands fierce, unwavering consistency. The dysregulated mind will periodically probe your defenses, searching for a single cracked stone in the wall. When you maintain your silence, you cement the neural connections governing your self-respect. The chemistry of your body shifts to sustain this sovereign state. You discover the immense, terrifying strength required to do nothing. Non-reaction becomes your sharpest blade. Stillness becomes your thickest armor. The chaos they generate fades into white noise. It resembles the hum of traffic on a distant highway, unable to disrupt the sanctuary of your living room. You recline in the center of your fortress, pulling the clean air of your own regulated biology deep into your lungs. The untouchable mind is not a mythical gift bestowed by the universe. It is a biological masterpiece built through the relentless, uncompromising commitment to your own survival. You laid the bricks. You poured the mortar. The foundation is solid rock and the fortress belongs to you. You have crossed the threshold. The frantic desperation of the past now lies far behind you, a fading echo in the vast expanse of your new reality. Take a moment to witness the sanctuary you forged. Your aura is no longer a porous sponge absorbing the poison of chaotic minds. It has hardened into a brilliant shield. Yet the inside of this barrier is not cold or rigid. The interior is lined with velvet. This is the core of sovereign energy. You remain soft, compassionate, and warm to those who bring mutual respect into your orbit. The armor exists exclusively for the emotional parasites who seek to drain your vital reserves. They glance at your fortified perimeter and feel the sharp sting of denial. They recognize they can no longer consume your light. They will retreat into the shadows, searching for easier prey. Let them leave. Release the heavy responsibility of carrying their unhealed wounds. Your biological systems now hum with a steady restorative rhythm. The cortisol flushed from your veins, leaving behind a tranquil clarity. Your vagus nerve keeps the heart rate grounded and secure. You breathe the clean oxygen of true independence. This peace is your birthright. It was stolen from you for a season, but you claimed it back through fierce, uncompromising will. The untouchable empath is not devoid of feeling. Rather, you feel with deliberate intention. You choose where your empathy flows. You dictate the terms of engagement. When you walk into a room, your presence commands a quiet, undeniable authority. People sense the immovable weight of your boundaries. They feel the velvet energy radiating from your center, and they know the gates are guarded. Rest in the warmth of your own light. The war is over. The fortress is secure. If you have walked this difficult path, if you have felt the profound shift from a dysregulated bond to unshakable peace, share your journey in the comments. Tell the story of the exact moment your aura closed to the chaos. Your words hold the power to guide another exhausted soul toward their own vagal awakening. We are gathering a community of sovereign minds here. Rest your energy with us and remember, you are finally safe.